Breaking news synthesis, July 2nd, 2026, USMCA. Trump announced the U.S. will not renew the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement he personally negotiated, signed in 2018, and called the most important trade deal ever made. He walked away from it on the exact 6th anniversary of it taking effect. The replacement plan, a decade of renegotiation. The autopilot of North American trade switched off by the same hand that switched it on. Air Force One. Trump debuted his new Air Force One today, a Boeing 747, donated by Qatar. The same Qatar that is currently the sole active mediator between the U.S. and Iran in ongoing ceasefire talks. He flew it to Theodore Roosevelt's Presidential Library in North Dakota. Qatar gave America its new presidential plane, while simultaneously hosting the negotiations to end America's war with Iran. The autopilot had a very busy day. South Africa. Deadly anti-immigration protests erupted across multiple South African cities. Thousands of police deployed. Property destroyed. People killed. The same South Africa that played in the World Cup, that the whole world was watching with friendly eyes just 2 weeks ago, is now the dateline on a very different kind of story. The bracket never showed this part. Iran. VP Vance declared the U.S. has accomplished its core mission in Iran, even as Witkoff and Kushner continue meeting mediators in Qatar, without directly engaging Iran. Tehran holds firm. No talks until hostilities end, and frozen Iranian funds are released. The mission accomplished and the ongoing mission are happening simultaneously. The whiteboard needs more space. Living room. Early morning. The whiteboard, the ceasefire whiteboard, now has 6 entries. The board is filling again, steadily, the way a calendar fills before a holiday. Joey is at the board with a fresh marker, adding a new line. He writes it, steps back, and counts the entries. He turns to Johnny.
To Johnny, measured, 6 entries, 6 days in.
1 per day.
At least 1 per day, and July 4th is in 2 days.
Kiatali. The 851,000 fireworks.
The Heat Dome.
The speech from Mount Rushmore.
Jimmy's bracket is still wrong.
Beat. They look at the bracket on the fridge.
Almost to himself. Some things are a constant.
Act 1. The deal he called the most important deal ever. Kitchen morning. Chloe is at the kitchen table reading news on her laptop. She's wearing a slightly disbelieving expression, the face of someone reading something they have to read twice to confirm it's real.
Reading out loud, slowly. Trump won't renew the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. He's walking away from it.
Reading alongside her, the trade deal between the U.S., Mexico and Canada. The one that replaced NAFTA.
The one he negotiated. In 2018, that he signed and called.
Reading ahead of her, the most important trade deal ever made.
Beat.
He's walking away from his own most important deal ever made.
On the 6th anniversary, exactly, to the day of it taking effect.
Long beat. They stare at the screen.
Closing the laptop gently, the way you close something when the news is too much. What's the plan now?
A decade of renegotiation, possibly separate deals with Mexico and Canada individually instead.
A decade.
A decade. To camera, the USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, was the deal Trump negotiated in 2018 to replace NAFTA. He called it the most important trade deal ever made. It took effect on July 1, 2020. Today is July 2, 2026, the 6th anniversary plus 1 day. And the Trump administration announced this week that they will not be renewing it. Instead, a decade of new negotiations, maybe separate bilateral deals with Mexico, separate deals with Canada. The trade framework that has governed how 3 countries buy and sell from each other for 6 years, the autopilot of North American commerce, switched off by the exact same person who turned it on.
From the doorway, He called it the most important deal ever made.
He did.
And now it's the deal he's walking away from.
A beat. Genuinely at a loss. I don't have a joke for this one. It's just the sentence.
Mr. Whiskers enters, reads the room, looks at Chloe's closed laptop, and decides this one needs 2 posters. He tapes them side by side on the wall. USMCA. What does this mean for your supply chain? Mr. Whiskers, CFO, and next to it, bilateral trade anxiety, a workshop.
To the room, quietly, without his usual bravado. Sometimes 2 posters is the right answer.
Nodding slowly. Yeah, sometimes it is.
Act 2. The plane from Qatar. Living room mid-morning. The TV shows footage of a gleaming white and gold Boeing 747. Enormous, freshly painted, taxiing on a runway. New Air Force One. Inaugural flight on the Kite. Jimmy is watching, genuinely impressed. So, reluctantly, is Joey.
Admiringly! That's a big plane.
It is a big plane.
Is that the new Air Force One?
It is.
Where'd it come from?
Very deliberately. Qatar.
Beat.
Qatar gave the U.S. its new presidential plane.
Qatar donated a Boeing 747 to the United States. Yes, it is now the new Air Force One. Trump flew it today, the inaugural flight, to Theodore Roosevelt's Presidential Library in North Dakota.
Processing this step by step. So Qatar, the country,
is currently hosting the U.S.-Iran peace negotiations. As the sole active mediator between the 2 countries, yes, that Qatar
gave America its new plane.
While simultaneously hosting the talks to end the war America is fighting.
Very long beat. Jimmy looks at the plane on the TV, looks at Joey, looks back at the plane.
Quietly, not a joke. That's a lot of things to be at the same time.
To camera, Qatar is a small country on the Arabian Peninsula with an enormous amount of influence right now. They are mediating between the United States and Iran, the only active back channel for the ceasefire talks. Their prime minister is meeting U.S. envoys. Tehran won't negotiate directly until hostilities stop and frozen funds are released. And meanwhile, Qatar donated the aircraft that will carry the American president everywhere he goes for the rest of this administration. And today, on its inaugural flight, that plane carried Trump to Theodore Roosevelt's Presidential Library. A library dedicated to a president famous for wielding American power directly. Flown there in a plane from the country currently managing the limits of that power. The autopilot, on a plane, given by the country trying to land the peace.
Dry from across the room. Vance also declared this week that the U.S. has accomplished its core mission in Iran.
While the negotiations are still ongoing.
While Witkoff and Kushner are meeting mediators in Qatar, not Iran. Qatar.
On the plane from Qatar.
A rare small smile, not literally on the plane.
A beat. No, but thematically.
Act 3. The other story from South Africa. Living room afternoon. Jimmy is at the fridge, updating his World Cup bracket, adding a new result from overnight. He circles something wrong again, as always, then he pauses, because the TV behind him has switched from World Cup highlights to a different South Africa story. Not football, protests, fire, police lines, a cheer in South Africa, deadly anti-immigration protests, thousands of police deployed.
Turning from the bracket to the TV quietly. That's South Africa.
Yes.
South Africa played in the World Cup.
Yes. Canada beat them in Los Angeles, round of 32.
Looking at his bracket, then at the TV. It was on my bracket.
It was on everyone's bracket.
A pause. Jimmy lowers the pencil without circling anything.
To camera, anti-immigration protests erupted this week across multiple South African cities. Deadly clashes, property destroyed, thousands of police officers deployed. This is the same South Africa that appeared in the World Cup, that played in Los Angeles in front of a global audience 2 weeks ago. The same country that the World Bracket tracked, cheered for, and moved on from. The World Cup showed you one frame of South Africa, the frame with the jerseys and the flags and the fans. This week shows you a different frame. Both are true. The bracket only had room for one of them.
Quietly, the tournament moved on. The country didn't.
Beat. Jimmy sets his pencil down on the counter. He doesn't go back to the bracket. Jamie walks in, drawn by the shift in the room's atmosphere. She glances at the TV. She glances at the whiteboard. She glances at Jimmy's pencil on the counter. She sits on the couch, her couch spot from last episode, the one she claimed without announcing it. She still doesn't have her notebook. Robocut Trismil in his corner turns his head very slightly toward the TV. His blue glow is steady, but he is watching the South Africa footage with something that on a face without expressions reads like attention. Otru, living room, evening 2 days out. The room has gathered. Quietly, Joey, Johnny, Jemmy, Jamie, Chloe, Mr. Whiskers all present. Not by plan, but by the particular gravity of an evening before a national holiday. Nobody feels entirely festive about this year. The TV is off. The whiteboard is visible in the background. Full now, 8 entries, lines in multiple handwritings. Robocat in his corner, watching everyone for once in the same room.
To camera, from his usual spot, 2 days from now, America fires 851,000 fireworks into a sky that is already hotter than it should be. Trump killed the trade deal he made, on its anniversary, with a plan to renegotiate for a decade. America flew its new presidential plane, given to it by the country mediating its war. South Africa was a bracket entry 2 weeks ago and is a protest zone today. And Iran says the mission is accomplished while the negotiations haven't started. Beat. Looking around the room, then back to camera. The thing about the day before the party is that everything is still in motion. The food isn't ready, the fireworks aren't lit, the heat hasn't peaked. The deals haven't landed, the whiteboard isn't full yet, it'll have more lines by Friday. Quieter, but everyone's in the room. That counts for something, that's not nothing.
Beat. The room stays quiet around him. Nobody moves.
Back to camera, warm, this is the Mamones, 2 days out. Subscribe, and check on somebody before Friday, the autopilot won't do it for you.